here with Professor Dr. İsmail Hakkı Mirici from Hacettepe University English Language Teaching Department. Thank you very much for agreeing to have this interview with me today.
I thank you very
Hakkı
much
hocam.
for inviting me.
As you know, this interview is being conducted as part of Curie Career Integration Grant, titled as Revitalizing the Professional Development of English Teachers, EFL teachers through innovative programs in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And we would like to know more about you. Maybe if you can start by introducing yourselves to
As
us.
you mentioned, I'm a full-time professor at Hacettepe University, and at the same time, related with your topic of the project, I'm at the same time the coordinator of the European language portfolio projects in Turkey, and I am the representative of Turkey in the Council of Europe as a national coordinator of the project.
Mm-hmm.
So I am involved in several European language portfolio development process, and now currently as an academic study I have chosen this topic to get a little bit more detailed.
I thought you are the most the right person to ask questions about European language portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really glad that we are able to have this interview for our English teachers in Europe and in Turkey as well. So could you give us a little bit of information about when the European portfolio was developed? Maybe we can start with that. Who developed it?
Yes, the European language portfolio was first developed as an idea in 1991 by a professor called David Liddell, mm-hmm. from that time from Dublin Trinity College. And the project idea flourished between the years of 1991 and 2000. And after 2001, the validation process was started, mm-hmm. In the Council of Europe Language Policy Division in Strasbourg, France. So till 2011, the portfolio models were developed, validated, and accredited, mm-hmm. by the Council of Europe. I think today we have more than 200 models used widely across Europe.
Wow, mm-hmm. It's a lot, 200
yes.
models. You mentioned the Council of Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe could you give us a little bit of information about that Council of Europe?
The Council of Europe is a political intergovernmental organization. It was founded in 1949. Turkey is one of the founding members of this organization, so we have been a member state to the Council of Europe, mm-hmm. since 1940s, late, mm-hmm. 1940s. Today it serves about 800 million people in 47 countries all over Europe, and it aims to build a greater Europe based on shared values, including tolerance and respect for cultural and linguistic diversity. That's why it promotes the use of the European language portfolio in a European education system.
Yes, and actually I think it's a great time to use such a self-assessment tool, I think, because of the emphasis on intercultural communication.
You're
across in the world.
Yeah.
Could you give us a little bit of information about the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages,
yeah.
and the European Language Portfolio?
Yes, European Language Portfolio is based on the Common European Framework. As the name suggests, the CFR is a framework, it's a guideline, and the ELP, European Language Portfolio, is a self-assessment tool used by language users. Mm-hmm. The CFR is used by teachers, learners, testers, policymakers, publishing companies, everybody as a guideline to reflect on the European standards in foreign language education from the teachers, learners, and assessors' perspective. Mm-hmm. And the European Language Portfolio is a self-assessment tool based on the Common European Framework, as I said, and it is the property of its user, and it promotes educational principles introduced by the Common European Framework. And if we look at the relationship between the CFR and the ELP, the CFR has some educational and descriptive features. So when we analyze the educational and descriptive features of the Common European Framework, it is easy to understand that the ELP is definitely holding all these educational and descriptive features. For instance, the levels of language proficiency competences in the Common European Framework are given as A1 and A2 for basic users, B1 and B2 for independent users, C1 and C2 for proficient users. And when you examine the European language portfolio, language proficiency levels and achievements are also graded from A1 to C2 as given in the CFR. And when you examine the educational policies of the CFR, you come across with three basic principles: self-assessment, learner autonomy, and cultural diversity. So when you look back at the ELP, you also realize that it is a self-assessment tool, which is one of the principles of the CFR, and it promotes learner autonomy as self-directed learning, so learner autonomy is supported by that. And in the ELP, there are some sections in which users are invited and encouraged to take the record of their intercultural achievements and experiences. So this is considered as a promotion to a plurilingual, multicultural personality development. That's why we can say that it is also pedagogically based on the Common European Framework.
You said that there are more than 200 different models of European language portfolio. Like, I had a question, like how many different models of the ELP are available for learners who are at different stages of primary, secondary, and higher education?
Yeah.
So we know the number now, but are they mostly developed for the primary levels or secondary or for higher education? Can you?
In fact, they are not developed for educational levels. They are developed for learners' age groups.
Okay.
Some portfolio models are for young learners, some are for very young learners, some are for teenagers, and some are for adults, actually. So there are totally 118 validated and accredited models and 23 registered models. In Turkey, we have 9 models developed for Turkish students, for Turkish users of languages. Mm-hmm. These models are, for instance, one model is for the Ministry of Education for the ages of 15 to 18. Another model for the Ministry of Education is for the ages 10 to 14. So there are 2 models developed by the Ministry of National Education and accredited by the Council of Europe. And one model was developed for Ankara University Tömer Center for adults. Mm-hmm. One model was developed by American Cultural Language Schools. It is again for adults. Maya College in Ankara developed a model for primary school children ages 7 to 9. And 2 models were developed by Istanbul Technical University Foundation Schools. One model for 7 to 9, the other is 10 to 14 years of age groups. Mm-hmm. And the last 2 models were developed by Bilfen schools in Turkey. Again, they are for the children between the ages of 5 to 9 and 10 to 14. So in total, we have 9 models developed and accredited for Turkish language learners and students.
You said that there are 118 models accredited, and only some of them 27. Are registered. What does that mean, registered mean?
Up to certain date, portfolio models were accredited. And after that year, the Council of Europe started to register the models after a process of examining if they are fulfilling the requirements of the Council of Europe standardization in terms of the use of the ELP. Okay. So some are validated, accredited, some are registered.
So then, can we say that these models are not developed by only one certain institution, but by different institutions,
Sure.
but they just apply for accreditation to the Council of Europe?
Definitely. Council of Europe Language Policy Division in Strasbourg, France. But now they are not accrediting and registering any models. They feel that they have enough number of portfolio models developed, accredited or registered, and from now on, institutions, organizations are free to use either the models already registered, or they can develop a model, but they can use it without any registration.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we know what the European language portfolio is. By the way, you mentioned that Tömer developed one
Yes.
portfolio. So it's not necessarily for English, but probably they developed it for Turkish, right? The Tömer.
Yes.
Tömer one.
European language portfolio models are plurilingual materials. There is no one single language-based portfolio model. At least they are bilingual. Tömer model, I think, is developed using several languages, including Turkish, English, German, French, Italian, and I think Spanish as well.
Okay. So we talked about the fact that there are so many models that an English teacher can use, can adapt for himself or herself, and as well as for his or her students. So why should an English teacher bother to use the European language portfolio in his or her teaching?
Okay. We are talking about the teachers in Europe in general, including Turkey, because we are a member state to the Council of Europe, and that's why we are also a European country.
Yeah.
In order to actualize and put into practice the principles of the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages, you need to guarantee your students and teachers also to carry the principles of the CFR into their classes and out of the language using environment. So the portfolio is a system which also guarantees this kind of practices of the CFR principles in and outside of language classrooms. It helps learner become self-directed, and they take their learning responsibilities. This is also an important step into developing autonomous learning personalities as one of the principles of the Common European Framework. This is the main principle behind the use of this self-assessment tool with the students. If the teachers aim at conducting foreign language education systems based on the CFR, they are highly recommended to also employ ALP-oriented system with the students.
Let's say an English teacher wants to start utilizing the European language portfolio in his or her classes. What are some of the primary considerations? How should she or he get prepared? What is the first thing to do? What would be a good starting point? What can you recommend to an English teacher who is willing to utilize the European language portfolio?
Yes, if a teacher intends and decides to make use of an ELP model with the students, or if a teacher aims to have their students use a European language portfolio in the language learning process, initially they should read about the principles of the ELP. They should have some ideas about the reasons why they should use it with their students. Second, then they should examine an ELP model in order to have a better idea about what it looks like and what different sections it has and how she could contribute to their students' use of the ELP when they have some personal problems about different sections. And most importantly, they should make use of a European language portfolio suitable for their age group by themselves as a portfolio user, to have a personal experience about how to come across with different sections, how to overcome difficulties, and how to use it in an effective way to be better help when the students are in need of their teachers' support.
Mhm.
And then, of course, the teacher should encourage the students, giving detailed information about what it is and how they can get benefit out of using this, and they should start.
So, where can they find this information about the European language portfolio? You said that it would be a good start to have an idea about the principles.
Yeah, there are lots of publications about the ALP. There are many websites, like a project website,
Mhm.
and even if they just write the European language portfolio in one of the like Google and other related research
Search engines.
They access many detailed and variety of information about the ALP.
Okay.
Yeah, online.
And about the models, like, are they available online as well?
Definitely.
Without paying any money, like, to see the model?
You can access and you can see them, but if you want to make use of them, and if you want your students to make use of them in certain number of student body, of course you need to purchase, because you cannot download and produce them as a person.
Okay.
They are all registered.
Okay.
But if you want to just examine what the models are like, you can visit the website of the Council of Europe, European Language Portfolio section.
Mhm.
There are variety of models for different age groups, all the accredited and registered models, accessible, and you can observe them. You can
Okay.
just
So
examine
all
them.
of these, like 118, are they?
They are all there.
They're all there, and
Yes.
as well as the registered
Yes.
models.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, registered model, the 118 includes the registered models.
Yes.
Right? That number.
Plus.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So we said that ELP is a self-assessment tool, and there is a dossier
Yes.
at the end
Yeah.
in which students keep their classroom products. Should we include this dossier in assessing student performance, even though it's a self-assessment tool?
Yes.
If yes, how should we include the dossier in assessment? What
You know,
is
this
your
is-
opinion on that?
Yes, this is one of the most commonly asked questions about the use of the European language portfolio, because teachers are curious about how they can make use of this portfolio as part of their formal assessment. As you know, the European language portfolio is an informal assessment tool. It's a kind of an alternative assessment. It's a self-assessment tool.
Yes.
But it has three components, as you know. The language biography, language passport, and the dossier. Dossier is the product file, actually. The students are revising, sometimes adding some new products they produced as evidence of their reflections in the biography section. So if a teacher wants to make judgment about the student's progress, and if a teacher wants to make use of the ELP as part of their formal assessment, they can use the dossier part. And they may invite the students to revise and change the products in their dossier from time to time. Maybe they can sign them, they can just stamp them to show that this is seen. So next time I would like to see another product of yours to observe the progress. So the students will have to replace, revise, and renew the products in the dossier part. So this can be part of like a quiz or a progress assessment material for the teacher to be a part of the formal assessment. So the dossier part can be really an authentic part for the authentic assessment in the classroom.
In that case, would it contradict the underlying idea behind the European language portfolio? Because we say that it should promote learner autonomy and it's a self-assessment tool. But when the learner knows that the teacher will be, taking a look at the materials, products in the dossier, would it change the nature of the use of ELP?
Just vice versa. We said it is promoting autonomous learning. So in the dossier part, the materials are used by the student for the student himself or herself. So the teacher does not require any kind of a specific material to be placed in the dossier part. Student will put in the dossier whatever he or she may wish.
Yes.
It can be a written product, it can be an audio product, it can be a project, it can be a result of an examination, it can be a certificate, it can be a video maybe. So the student is autonomous to put in the dossier as an evidence of his or her progress. So this is again a kind of an autonomous assessment contributed by the student himself.
Okay.
So sometimes we give exams, and in our exams we ask questions, and the questions are priorities in our mind. We would like to learn if they know this or not. However, in the portfolio dossier part, students are deciding, or they are making decision about what should be assessed in terms of their own progress. So this is definitely supporting autonomous learning again.
Okay. There's a fee that students need to pay in order to use the ELP. We said that. How do you feel about making the students pay for the departments or the teachers, kind of making it compulsory to pay for the ELP? And what if there are students who cannot afford to pay, for instance, among that student body?
Yeah, in a school system, as I said, there are two ministry models accessible online, free of charge for Turkish students.
Okay.
It is the only free model provided in Europe.
Wow.
Yes, in every country in Europe, portfolios are in sale. They are sold. But in Turkey, they can access it free of charge from the ministry website, just writing their Turkish identity number, their names. They can get into the system and they can download the portfolio models easily.
Okay.
So it's free of charge. But in some private sector, with some maybe commercial concerns, schools prefer to make use of some international models rather than the model produced by the Ministry of Education. So this is their tendency, and I think it is, as I said, commercial concerns to make use of an international model as part of their course books, course materials.
So
they are paying for that.
The fee actually is not like a lot, as far as I know.
No.
Like 30 Turkish liras.
30 or 40 Turkish liras, mostly.
And so students pay for this fee just to download the portfolio to get the rights of using, or do they also keep their information in their system, in their servers? Do you know what I mean?
When they download from the ministry website, it's free of charge. They don't pay anything. But if they want to purchase it from an international publishing company or international organization providing, such as Alta Equals model, for example, they have to pay for it. But it is not downloadable from the website.
Okay.
They are hard copies. They are published, printed versions. So they can obtain them as a booklet.
Okay, so they send the copies to the students, and students actually keep a hard copy.
Yeah.
Okay, and are there any models where you can log in to the system and the system actually keeps that information for you?
There are some electronic versions in Turkey. Bilfen models are semi-electronic, I think, and Istanbul Technical University versions are fully electronic. Students are using their portfolios, keeping the portfolio in the system, and whenever they want to refill it or change it, they visit the website again, writing their passwords. They are getting into their portfolios, accessing it easily, and revising it and keeping it in the system again.
Okay. And ITU is using the portfolio for the university level?
No, for school children. They have a foundation school, primary and secondary. They are using it in their school system.
Okay. How is the big picture in terms of the use of European language portfolio in Turkey, realistically speaking? It seems to be a tool which can be used more practically in maybe university preparatory education, and maybe for the college, private institutions. Is it being utilized in state schools, like widely? What is your opinion on that?
In state schools, in the school system, I mean the private secondary or high school system, in Turkey there are about 40,000 students making use of a European language portfolio model. And in private sector, as I said, there are many private schools utilizing ELP-oriented education in their schools again, such as Bilfen schools, Maya schools, American and British culture schools, even SNAV schools, as far as I know. And there are some universities, state universities, using a European language portfolio in the prep department. Bülent Ecevit University, Süleyman Demirel University, Konya Agriculture University, Nevşehir Hacı Bektaş Veli University, Uşak University are some of these examples. In their prep departments, they are using an ELP model as part of their prep education system in English.
I think you also mentioned Çukurova University.
Çukurova University, Mersin University, they used it.
So 40,000 students, is it a good number, or what do you think?
Relatively, it's a good number. If you compare the number of these students with the students who are making use of a European language portfolio in Europe and in a European country, it's a big number. But if we compare the number in our system, considering the number of more than 1 million students in the school system, it's a still small number.
Proportion.
Actually. Yeah.
Proportionally. And how this number 40,000, is it like it's the number of the students who registered?
They visit the portfolio website, they download it and they use it.
Okay, so we know that they actually used it, not just logged into the system.
No, they download it.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we get any feedback, or does the Ministry of National Education get any feedback from the teachers using the portfolios?
From time to time, during the seminars I take part in, I hear quite positive reactions, positive feedback from our school teachers who are utilizing a European language portfolio with their students. But I don't know actually if the ministry is receiving a regular feedback, or is there a platform to get ideas about how it is in progress. I don't know about that actually.
Is there a platform where the teachers using ELP are listed or announced so that other teachers who are willing to use the European language portfolio can go there and see maybe who else is using and ask their questions?
Unfortunately, there is not such a media or means of instructional organization or any kind of a platform to learn about their feedback. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe in my project website I can provide.
Yes, it can be a great asset.
Like that.
Your project website. Even I also developed some TÜBİTAK projects. In our websites, we are sharing some of the documents and some feedback from the students. But of course, it's not regular and widely spread media about that.
So if a teacher wants to reach schools or other teachers who have used it or who are still using the European language portfolio.
Through only personal effort.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will actually try to include such a forum or maybe an interactive platform for teachers or schools who are willing to share their experiences on eflteachers.net, the project website.
Wonderful. Yeah.
You'll see. Are there any professional development programs available for English teachers who are willing to use the European language portfolio, who wish to learn more about how to use it in their teaching?
Yeah, in private sector and in state education systems, there are various in-service teacher training programs. And in every pre-service or in-service teacher training program, the ELP and CFR-oriented education is also taught to teachers as part of the programs. But there is not such a specific training program, as far as I know, in Turkey about that.
Are there any websites or for maybe archived webinars, you know, where they can go and join a webinar about ELP, or maybe, yes, webinars, let's say?
There are several, again, online resources accessible for teachers or researchers. For example, Council of Europe website, Council of Europe Language Policy Division in Strasbourg, France. They have a European language portfolio section on the web. European Center for Modern Languages in Graz, Austria. They have their website and they have a variety of products about the use of the ELP. And there are some TÜBİTAK projects, such as ADOCEP. ADOCEP means Avrupa Dilleri Öğretim Ortak Çerçeve Programı. So this project is a TÜBİTAK project, and the website of this project has some documents about the ELP. Some European Union project websites, such as Integrilp, Integrating ELP, I think this is Integrilp, and ELP website of the Council of Europe, as I said, and ADP Map.gov.tr, the Ministry Education website, is also another resource. They can visit and download some documents.
Okay, ADP?
adp.map.gov.tr.
Okay. Can you also tell us the websites of the Council of Europe? There are two institutions in France.
Yeah, one
and
is
in
Council of
Austria.
Europe Language Policy Division in Strasbourg, France. The other is European Center for Modern Languages in Austria, Graz.
Okay, so is there a need to say the actual website, or would they, when they Google,
When they Google
they will come up?
Council of Europe Language Policy Division, they get there in France.
Okay.
When they write European Center for Modern Languages, they get there in Graz.
Okay, thank you. What would you like to say about the importance of teachers' readiness in using the European language portfolio?
It is a widely known fact that teachers are quite resistant to some fundamental changes in their professional life.
Yes.
So they are not very eager to change their habits of teaching and their teaching methodology. But there are also some quite satisfactory number of enthusiastic teachers who are making use of new technologies, new dimensions of education. So this is one of this. I know many teachers who are really very happy to carry this kind of an education system into their teaching environment. So enthusiastic teachers are doing really good with the ELP.
To utilize the ELP wisely and skillfully, a teacher had better be knowledgeable about the CFR levels and skills, particularly to have a full grasp of the can-do statements.
Yes.
Or can-do descriptors, maybe. What kind of a training program should be given to English teachers in this sense, to make them, you know, to
understand
prepare
it better.
them maybe to understand the can-do descriptors fully?
Yes. Before such a training is conducted, a pretest should be given to the teachers. In this pretest, descriptors can be stated, and they may be invited to, for example, match levels and skills in a correct way. Probably they will not manage it. And then, during the training period, teachers may be given a descriptor training. Levels and skills can be taught to the teachers. And then they may be invited to match the levels and skills again. Finally, the teachers may be given a descriptor and asked to find out related level and skill.
Okay.
as an alternative question. And after a training, a post-test may be administered again to see the difference. If they have learned what level means what descriptor means what skill. So this can be a kind of equivalence of teachers' understanding of the Common European Framework in an institution.
Even if a teacher does not join a training program, this can be
a self-study can be done.
Can be
they can be given such a guideline, and they can be provided with these kinds of documents, and they may do it on their own.
On their own, like have the read the descriptors first and try to match them with
levels
the
and
levels
skills.
and skills.
Yeah.
Yes. Are the textbook and teaching materials in Turkey written according to the CFR levels?
Yes. All foreign language teaching and learning materials since 2000 have been produced based on the Common European Framework.
Okay. And how important is this alignment between classroom materials and the CFR levels? The can-do descriptors.
In terms of the Minister of Education?
No, in general. Like, let's say you are teaching, and the students, you encourage the students to use the European language portfolio. But if your materials are not aligned with the levels or descriptors,
This
is
is
that
a
really
mismatch.
important?
Of course. I mean, if your students are, for example, at A2 level, and if you are giving them a B1 level of material, it's impossible to match the students' development with the material as well. So if you want to really observe the progress of your students, and if you want them to be involved in a self-assessment process related with and aligned with the classroom teaching procedure, they should, of course, match.
Okay.
They should be relevant
Okay.
to each other. Yeah.
If I know it's hard to tell all of these descriptors all at once, but can you give us, just to have an idea, can you give us some of the examples from listening or from different skills, from different levels? Is it possible to do it?
Yeah, I can give you an example. If somebody says, I can understand some basic words or phrases when somebody speaks slowly and clearly about myself, my family, or my concrete surroundings.
Okay.
So this is the key description. When somebody speaks slowly and clearly, I can understand. So this is listening. When they speak about my family, myself, or my concrete surroundings, this is most immediate environment. And I can understand only some words or phrases, not the whole sentence, not the whole idea. This is A1 level. So this is A1 listening for every language spoken across Europe.
And does the age matter?
No.
It's the same
The
for
age does not matter.
young learners and for...
All of them. Yeah.
Okay. On the BDAF young adult model, I don't know what is the British...
British Educational Affairs.
British Educational Affairs, yes. The British Educational Affairs young adult model. There are sections which ask learners to specify their intercultural attainments towards the end, after the
Yes,
descriptors.
in every European language portfolio.
Or personal language attainments, for instance. I'm like, when I think about myself as a high school student, if I'm using that portfolio and if I have to fill out that section, I would say, what is this intercultural attainment, or what do you mean by that? So do you think English language learners in our country are ready to answer such questions in terms of language awareness?
When you are providing young learners with a European language portfolio self-assessment experience, teachers and parents must always be of help for the child.
Yes.
So of course, the child may not understand what it means to reflect intercultural achievement or experiences. But through addressing the questions and helping the child to make use of this reflection system, they can do it. And after a certain period of time, they will learn how to do it, and they will continue on their own. They will be more successful in doing such kind of a self-assessment. When it comes to the intercultural competence development, it means what languages they speak, where, in what environment, with whom, what they have learned culturally, and what is their assumption based on this experience. So they can make reflections just with a few words, maybe with a few sentences. It is enough. This is just to increase their awareness about cultural diversity, similarities and differences in terms of cultures. And just to help them realize that using this language, they also discover something new about the cultures of different people. This is a means of communication which is quite helpful as a person to learn more about other people.
So maybe even for high school students, even if when they first see the question, specify your intercultural attainments, they may not even know what it means. But
yeah, the teacher may
initially the teachers, probably the teachers should give them some ideas, some examples about what intercultural attainments mean. And
in every setting, for every age group, before making use of a European language portfolio, teachers should conduct an introduction session to the students. One class hour, for example, should be devoted to the introduction to the use of the ELP, what it is like, how it is used, what it looks like. Children should get it and examine the pages, sections, and the teacher should explain what each part or each section expects them to reflect, how it is used, why is it important, why is it necessary. So the first maybe class hour should be devoted to the introduction to the use of the ELP and the features of the ELP.
And if students have any questions, they can ask
yes.
their questions as well. What do we know about the committee who prepared the CFR? Who were they?
Yeah.
From
CFR.
which countries, maybe?
All right.
In Europe.
CFR is a product of a European Commission project, actually. Firstly, in 1960s, European Commission intended to promote plurilingualism and multiculturalism in Europe. And in 1970s and 80s, two academics from Cambridge University, Van Eck and Trim, worked on the description of competences in English, and then they were translated into French first. And the first four materials they developed was breakthrough, wastage, threshold, and vantage. And afterwards, the idea of developing a common European framework was launched in 1991 during an important Council of Europe conference in Switzerland. And a working party was set up in 1992. So the idea of developing a CFR was seeded in Switzerland in 1991, and the procedure was started in 1992 based on the studies conducted by Van Eck and Trim in 1970s and 80s. And Dr. Brian North and Professor Gerhard Schneider from University of Freiburg worked on the developing and scaling the descriptors. And later, another authoring group was formed, including Trim, Coast, and North together, they created the whole booklet,
Okay.
whole material. At the end of 1996, the first version of the document was distributed to experts for feedback, and the revised version was presented at a conference in Strasbourg in April 1997.
Okay.
After 2 more years of piloting, the official version was launched in January 2001 during the Year of Languages of Europe. So, idea was flourished in 1960s. First studies were conducted in 1970s, 80s. The idea of Common European Framework was flourished in 1990s, and the output was achieved in 2001. And the people included, involved in this project, especially was led by Brian North and Professor Gerhard Schneider from Switzerland.
Okay.
Today there are 40 language versions. The Common European Framework was translated into 40 languages.
40.
40.
40. Okay.
4 and 0. From Arabic to Ukrainian and Turkish.
Okay.
There are 40 languages.
The CFR and the ELP, European Language Portfolio, were developed by Europeans.
It's a
as
pan-European
you-
project.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can we talk about any cultural mismatches, or when the ministry, for instance, prepared their model? Did they have to maybe revise some of the items, or were there any cultural mismatches between the descriptors, or
No.
anything like that?
No, there is no
Did you observe any mismatches?
No. There is no content about the cultures, actually. It is just talking about developing cultural diversity, but it doesn't specify what culture should be included, what cultures should be omitted, what is the cultural diversity in terms of specific cultures. It just talks about European cultural diversity without any specific reference to any specific culture.
Okay.
So there is no mismatch about anything.
So
This is a framework, actually.
okay, so we can say that there is no a collectivistic culture like Turkey decides to use, or a teacher from a collectivistic culture, when he or she looks at the descriptors.
Definitely.
There is no need for a cultural adaptation, or
Yes.
because we are talking about a foreign language.
It is anonymous about cultural labels. It doesn't give or it doesn't utter any specific culture.
Okay, so you don't find it any.
No.
It's not biased or anything
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
You have an article which was published in Tojde in 2008 about the development and validation process of an ELP model for young learners. Could you please give teachers who work with young learners some practical information about the use of ELP with young learners? You actually mentioned some.
Yeah.
But if there anything else
there is a Turkish proverb. It says, "Trees bend when they are fresh." So we can start shaping our children's autonomous learning, cultural diversity, self-assessment attitude positively. We should start it when they are young. And of course, as I said, it should be with the support of their teachers and with their parents. Maybe teachers should inform parents about how they can do it. And from time to time, parents and teachers should come together about the students' progress. I know that in many educational environments, parents of young learners are so eager to be supportive for their children in their language education, but they don't know how they can be of help for the children. So they may sit together with their child using the portfolio and asking the child to self-reflect about, for example, his or her competence in listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And they may discuss with their child about their intercultural development. they may do something together using the portfolios, and they will discover what their children are able to do and what their children can also do in the future. So they may assess their achievements, they may set goals together with their child. So this is a mutual way of collaboration with schools and parents as well, using this portfolio through students' self-assessment.
Can you recommend a young learner model, maybe?
Of course.
Like which
There
one?
are many models. There are many young learners models
Okay.
that can make use of it.
Okay.
Mhm.
So any
Any
one
model
of
is
them.
useful
Okay.
because they are all standards, but they must be validated or registered.
Okay. To be honest with you, I haven't seen a young learner model, and I'm very curious to see one because they don't know how to read. The young learners, they especially before before they start reading and writing, and
That's
I
why
don't know
teachers
how.
should be involved in it.
Okay, so there are still questions,
Yes.
but the teacher or parent actually reads.
There are one-word instructions.
Okay.
So teachers may help them write, tick, paint, show, so they can just follow such simple instructions and do it.
Okay. I think we are at the end of our interview. We have learned so much from you.
Thank you.
In your opinion, has the CFR and the ELP gained sufficient popularity across Europe and in Turkey? Even in the world, maybe.
Yes. In the world, it is also known. In America today, there is a lingua folio, very similar to the European language portfolio models. So Americans also know what it is like and how it is effective in foreign language education. In our country, we know what it is. And it is, I think everybody has heard about it. In a sense, it has achieved its goals to be a widely known tool. But when it comes to the practice of it, as I said, some teachers are still resistant, not only in Turkey, but in Europe as well. Even David Liddell, who is the brainfather of this European language portfolio model, in his latest article, he says it hasn't yet received enough attention from every European country. So it still needs to be maybe promoted, and teachers should be more willing to make use of this material with their students to put common European framework principles into practice.
Yes, because I was in Spain, in Madrid, a few weeks ago, and I also asked them if they are still using European language portfolio, and they said, oh, it was popular around 2005, around that time. It's not popular anymore in Europe. So, but they said that it was, everybody was trying to learn or use it around, like right after it was released, let's say. The popularity decreased somehow, and I think it's, I see, or my perception at least towards the European language portfolio, it's there, and if through maybe a seminar or somehow if a teacher hears about it, like it's not very, there are no ups and downs of it.
Yes.
That's my perception.
Yes.
It's there as a resource, and if a teacher wants to use it or adopt it, have his or her students use it, then they can go and find the resources to do that.
Yes.
So I don't know how.
Every success in any educational system, in any educational area, requires effort. If you do not put effort in anything, you cannot achieve any desired goal. So teachers would like to improve their students' language proficiency. They want them to become independent language users in real life, but they may not give enough importance to some materials, to some tools, which are one of the great helps. Maybe they find it a little bit time-consuming. They may not realize its importance in their professional career. These may be the factors which influence their approach to make use of a European language portfolio.
And not only for the English language portfolio, but for other reflective practices as well, because
Yes.
that's
Yes.
sometimes I give seminars about reflective practice, and that is the autonomy or reflection. Those are kind of new terms that we are not used to. Like it's kind of slowly spreading in the culture. Maybe we can say that, but it might take some time.
Yes.
Because Turkey is on the collectivistic end of the spectrum. So we have a respect for authority, and we expect our teachers to teach us something. And we don't know or we are not aware of the importance of taking part or taking the responsibility in your own learning as a language learner or as any kind of learner, actually. So it will, hopefully, more teachers will start utilizing the European language portfolio,
hopefully,
as time goes by. Anything so far? Anything else you want to add? Any comments you want to make?
Thank you very much. This kind of a project is great asset to make contemporary language education systems widely known in our country or in Europe. So I really appreciate your effort to make this system known by the teachers, at least by the users of your website through your project. And it is really very nice.
Thank you.
I wish you good luck.
Thank you very much.
All the best, and thank you very much for inviting me to this wonderful interview.
I also want to thank you very much for coming all the way from Ankara for this interview and making time for the interview to meet with us here in Izmir. And thank you very much for all the nice words you said about the project and my efforts. I hope today in your seminar there was actually this quotation that said, to become a better learner, to become a better educator, you have to become better learners.
You're right.
So I hope that a teacher who has just watched this interview from beginning till the end, I hope they will leave with something they learned in this interview. And it's actually a proof that they are going to be better. They are there, or they are watching this interview to become a better educator. So
they're on the right track.
They are, hopefully. And I just want to thank you, Hakkı Hocam, for the interview.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.